Hey everyone, welcome back to the Florida Relocation Guide YouTube channel. My name is Adam Hancock, and today again we are talking about the shifting real estate market here in the state of Florida. But more importantly for this video, I want to hone in on possible opportunistic ways that you can take advantage of these changes or at least navigate through them more fluidly. So I hope you enjoy this video and let's hop in. So first things first, where are we coming from? What was our foundation and why is the shift even necessary? One big key was interest rates. You hear a lot of interest rate talk all the time, and that's the main hot button here. But over the last couple of years, I saw 2.8% interest rates, 3.1% interest rates very regularly. People getting interest rates lower than, car loan history. So you had enormous inherent buying power if you set aside principal for a second. A lot of affordability that allowed people to get into homes that they had no shot of because of the monthly payment being several $100s cheaper just by simply changing interest rates, and at the very least created a FOMO situation. People were fearing that this was never going to come back. I need to go do something because of the pure rush of I'm going to miss out if I don't. Okay, and then next we need to talk about demand. So interest rates alone would cause, normal demand to a market. But what we added in the last couple of years was demand that should have never happened and would have not anyway naturally happened at the speed it happened, which creates a lot of issues for an industry that's been planning on historic norms. So COVID created lockdowns. California, Washington State, Washington DC, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Canada, I could go on, were locked down in ways that Florida, one, was the opposite in a lot of ways. But for a long period of time, you add winter in certain markets on top of that, and it's blue, people are sad, and they feel restricted and they feel like they need to escape something. That also coincides with a political environment that you may disagree with. Then you have corporations trying to navigate this and their ad work from home. And a lot of it looks like it's permanent work from home, or people are willing to take the risk that if it's not permanent, they're fine with that. So that lets people for the first time, maybe in a long period of time, or maybe ever, say, I can live anywhere. I could live anywhere technically, so they can look at cost and be like, why am I'm already in the sunshine, but Florida's half the price. They could look at, I'm in a cold weather state and I want to go to Florida, or think about the ripples that happen in just within cities and micro areas. So take, for example, you live around downtown Chicago and you can't live in the suburbs because the commute's too far for your family balance. It just doesn't work. It's not worth the commute, right? But now you say, I'm not going to leave Illinois, all my family's here and stuff, but I can move to the suburbs in Chicago because I can work from home and I don't have to be reliant on being in city proximity. So what that creates is these people from downtown take that price and they get more house and they go to the suburbs. The suburban people get a gold rush because their house is worth a ton of money and they're looking at a one-time only liquidation. These are ones where if it didn't happen in this environment, maybe never happen. So those people leave the state. Downtown Chicago goes to the suburbs, and you have all these ripples that eventually trickle to Florida. And then I'll give you one final one, just early retirement. So folks are saying that whether I was going to retire in 3 to 5 years, but I can ride it out, work from home in Florida, and opportunistically buy something and have equity in that place and get it at a good price when I'm ready to retire. Or they might take a severance or find some way to give the corporation an out, which is struggling in a lack of demand of their goods and services because of COVID. And so all these shifts happen and it creates demand that's very unnatural, which obviously is going to need a correction eventually. Okay, and the last one as far as pre-shift is new home development. So, there's only so many homes that people live in that they could possibly sell, right, that already exist. So a lot of what actually happened when you have 500,000 people come into the state of Florida or Texas, wherever they went, they gobble up new construction. They're signing new home contracts. Not only are there interesting deals, but also that's the actual inventory. A lot of the inventory was new home developments. And the builders obviously want to take advantage of this. They're selling 3 years worth of houses in a single year. So that gets kind of weird with one, they're throwing out kind of appraisal value. If you build enough homes in one area that didn't exist there already, they set their own comparable values against their own homes, which is weird. It's not really relating to the overall supply and demand relationship of the city. But just also build timing, logistics, quality of builds, and just keeping up with the pace. That was the last layer that I saw as far as what happened last year. Okay, now that we have a good preface, what's happening now, what can you do about it, and why should you even care? I think the first thing is there's less demand. There's less competition, there's less demand. This is always, healthier for buyers to be on this side, but at the very simplest form, if there's less perceived urgency and less scarcity, then you can make a poised decision. You can buy what's right for you, when it's right for you, what's appropriate, and you don't have to feel like you're rushed into every decision. That is a good thing for everyone, really. Secondly, while I don't think we're going to head into a full-on buyer's market here, especially in Southwest Florida, just because of what would prevent it would be, I can't see inventory getting into a 7-8 month market environment. I can't see it getting there because of all the reasons I just said. People got these low interest rates and they locked in for 30 years, and they got these lower principals versus the next 3 years. So if they sell or liquidate, they have to do something else. So that's going to prevent it getting really crazy, in my personal opinion. But just a more level balance, 3 or 4 months of inventory at a time, is going to make agents on the selling side, sellers themselves, it's going to make them try to price it appropriately. They can't go make me move Zillow style pricing because it will sit. With interest rates not being incredibly attractive and new construction builders incentivizing people, which we're going to talk about next, sellers can't just go pie in the sky because people would rather not buy at all because there's no reason to rush into a 6.5% interest rate on someone else's house just because there's only a few homes to pick from. Okay, the second thing with a more even supply and demand is the new construction incentives. And that's one of the biggest right now in Florida. Builders are feeling this thing. They're feeling not only the competition against each other, but they're feeling just a lot less people in the market versus their forecast. So they're flying people into town to tour. They're giving $30,000, $40,000 towards design, taking it off of principal. They're trying to find what matters to people. They're trying to pay down the first couple of years of interest rate. They're trying to find a trigger that is going to appeal to the masses in some capacity. That's why they're always varying these incentives, so that they can figure out what would matter to you and why you would do something versus wait. Now, just waiting for waiting's sake of like some windfall of opportunity, I never really agree with. I think you should try to navigate this thing fluidly, right? Because these builders do slip into opportunities where they'll offer the right level of incentives in the right market and give you some negotiating power, where you can look at that versus the principal, versus the monthly payment, versus buying now and refinancing the interest rate later, and go for what is actually financially appropriate. It's not always a smokescreen. It's not always them trying to take advantage of everyone, because I think there is some really good deals out there, but I think you should be way more patient, and you should know way more information about what's going to happen next, what you think is going to happen next, what just happened, and what are all your options across several counties within the state of Florida before you do anything. And that brings me to another thing as far as incentives, and that comes to the actual mortgage itself. If you build a new home, then a lot of that's bundled because the new construction developers, a lot of them own the mortgage company and they own the title company, so they have enough margin where they try to use that whole package of costs to incentivize you, which is pretty advantageous in a lot of ways because they have a lot of money they're working with. But regular mortgage people in general, if you're not aware of how it works, is a lot of times they're like a broker, for instance, or an originator, and they have a couple point, like 2.5%, 2.75% they could work with, but that's all the money they have to work with, right? And they make a part of that. So under the right scenario, then they can offer discounts. They can share that percentage. They can help do things like that. So in an environment where a lot of mortgage people are competing with the builders and with each other, then there are a lot of times is incentives that exist there that you might not be aware of. And I'm seeing that become way more prevalent as these mortgage people breathe down our necks to try to get access to customers. Okay, one final one I've been toying with as, at the very least, a interesting thought exercise is the way master plan developments relate to a fragile market. So this is the idea that can you take big innovation ideas that a lot of separate parties are involved in, whether that's residential plus commercial and industry, etc., and can you use that to hedge your bets against some air cover related to your home investment? So what I mean by that is take a few examples, right? Welland Park in South Venice, Northport in the Sarasota County area. It's 10 neighborhoods, full downtown they're building. The whole thing's 18 minutes from the beach. You can walk to Cool Today, the Braves spring training facility. And they have many different price points and different level of homes, and they're clearly pushing into that area. A bunch of different builders that are the same players in the game, right? Neal Communities and Mattamy and all these guys, all contributing to this one idea, and it's a seaside idea. Lakewood Ranch, #1 multi-generational master plan in the United States, northeast of downtown Sarasota, 30 plus communities, very family centric, high rated schools, 3 town centers. Wiregrass north of Tampa, it's in Wesley Chapel, end-to-end life cycle. They have 55 and up Taylor Morrison community. They have family centric Lennar homes that are affordable. The whole thing's about a 35, 40-minute commute to downtown Tampa. Lake Nona is incredibly interesting in Orlando. So Lake Nona is adjacent to downtown Orlando. Huge kind of operation between Lake Nona and Sunbridge. Developer owned, and you have Del Webb in there. You have multiple different builders. UCF Hospital, you have an all children's hospital there. You have helipad. They're going to, all these different commuter interesting districts, but multiple neighborhoods. You have Walt Disney moving their corporate staff there. So they bring in grocery stores, commercial development, residential, and a master plan mixed use idea. But a lot of smart people spend a lot of money contributing to that idea. So does that give you some safety in buying the right level home within an idea that people are clearly making a push towards? That's where a lot of my mind goes of you're not buying in a silo, it's not as random. And if all of these parties, like, they build a grocery store and all of a sudden Starbucks and Chipotle hop outside, right? They know this stuff years in advance, right? Not everything works, but this isn't some pie in the sky random idea. These are long-term 20-year planning ideas. Does that give you some hedge against a bad investment potentially in a 2023 market? Another thing I've been thinking about is the way luxury homes and exclusive neighborhoods relate to a shifting market. This would be, for example's sake, Wild Blue in Lakewood Ranch, new construction, the Lake Club, the Oaks Golf Club in Nokomis, a lot of parts of northern Naples. These are price points at $2.5 to $4 million. These buyers want what they think this money's worth, right? They're accustomed to a certain level of custom homes, and not any random builder that slips into this category is going to satiate that need. Same with the way amenities, golf courses, and clubhouses relate to the monthly fees. These folks have built many homes before. This isn't new, and a lot of this category weighted completely in the last market because a lot of the stuff that was sitting in this $1.8 to $3 million bucket should have never potentially reached that bucket at all, and it was scarcity that slipped builders that shouldn't have been there into that market, and people didn't just buy it flippantly. Also, I'm seeing that a lot of these really special neighborhoods that kind of look like nothing else, when it comes to new construction, a lot of the sexy new developments, this is not where builders are going for the most part, because they're building smaller stuff that's quicker to build, that's a less burdensome on their margin. Also, they can build a lot more homes if they're on 60, 50-foot lots, not 100 across the front. And so I'm not seeing these opportunities as plentiful. So this is one category. All that to say, this is one category that I wouldn't necessarily sleep on and group in to the regular shifting market, because I do think that demand hasn't dropped off quite the opposite in a lot of these communities. Demand has not dropped off like it was. It's not a reason to rush into anything, but this is an area that I wouldn't group in and just wait for some opportunity to happen, because a lot of these new construction ones, when they are finished building or finished with all the contracts signing, I don't see 10 coming behind it. All right, my friends, that is a wrap for this video. Once again, my name is Adam Hancock. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing and liking. Also, if we can help you with any real estate assistance, buying, selling, whatever, in the state of Florida, please reach out. I'll put all our contact information here. We would love to assist. We have specialists everywhere. And finally, my website, thesunshinestateco.com. I'll put the URL here. Free resources, tools, analytical guides, a lot of blog articles if you don't have time to watch video or you don't want to. There's a lot of stuff that will not exist on the YouTube ecosystem there, so please check that out. We'll see you on the next one.